Hello. It is a day.
It is indeed a day.
Today is a day.
It is not wrong.
Today is the day of
Oh
Friday.
my word.
We are on episode 6.
We are. We were actually having a moment of what episode are we on? I just went back and we actually titled one episode 4 twice. That's what was wrong.
Oh.
So we have 2 episodes
Well,
4.
you know, sometimes things like that happen. But here we're episode 6. That means that we are a month and a half into the magic word. And
Wild.
we've already had some difficult conversations, and we've had some lighthearted conversations, we've had some learning conversations. Today is going to be a combo of all of them. I feel like.
Yep.
But first off, how's your week?
Are we in the screen?
No.
Oh.
Do you want to be?
Are you recording?
No, of course not. Now we are.
We always love a good start to the magic word. You know what I'm saying? It's always
Guys, we
great.
know that I am a pro streamer. We talk about this every time.
She streams more than anybody I know. Don't y'all see her on 24/7?
Anyway, how was your week?
My week was actually fairly well to start. And then I started getting sick, so I am a bit under the weather, but that's okay. I am feeling actually kind of okay-ish today. So, no, yeah, the week was good until
Until smile. I had to literally just pull up my calendar because I couldn't remember if we did anything this week.
I don't remember
It's been
anything.
like a really just chill, slow time for us right now with the holidays over with. Everyone's slowly getting back into things.
Mhm.
And so it for sure is interesting,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. Honestly, I'm not gonna lie. I actually had a really good start to my new year. Like, mentally, I have been so well. And then suddenly, the 2021 is starting to try us. So that's what occurred. But before we get into anything like really heavy, can we actually talk about men's game? How's it been going for you?
Um, so I was actually having a difficult time for a couple days this week. Obviously,
Really?
things going on this week. I didn't post about the last couple days, so I will catch up from Wednesday, Thursday, and today.
Mhm.
And then I still had, even though I know I have stuff around, it was still kind of difficult for me to be like, where do I want to go today? Because I've been
Mhm.
doing this for so long, I can't just like turn around and just grab stuff. So I'm at the point in my minimalism journey that I need to actively be being aware of where I am storing things and where I am potentially storing excess stuff.
Yeah.
I went to go find like a lip color to wear today, and I was so sure that I had some, and I'm like digging through all of these drawers, and then I remembered last year I got rid of everything that did not fit inside my one small makeup bag, including any lip color.
I mean, if you need anything, I got plenty to spare that it's unused. You
And
know what
so
color?
it just like it was weird for me. So I started just going through random stuff. So I would just open a drawer, and that's exactly how I told you guys to start last time, is just open a drawer. And I had to go back to that because I didn't know where to start. So I opened up our junk drawer, which really isn't that junky. I got rid of like 4 or 5 pens that didn't work, and a couple of
Yeah.
random pieces of paper and some rubber bands. But I was like, that's still that's still stuff though, right? That's still stuff that needs to leave my home.
Do you think you're gonna be able to do the 496 items? It doesn't sound like you have that much to give away.
We haven't gone through the art drawers yet. Okay.
Oh, that's true.
And last time I didn't do any of my art stuff. So I have 2 drawers full of pens and markers and stuff like that I'm pretty sure I could get 30 things out of there easily.
Oh my gosh. Well, then save it
Yeah.
for specifically that day. I've actually been pretty okay. Then again, I have more people in my house, more stuff. We've been able to get rid of it, and also actually Leif started out with me, so he's been doing he did some toys like in the start, and then he's starting to go through like some of his clothes that he just doesn't need anymore. And it's nice to see him like reach for the items and make sure that they don't fit and things like that. So that's been really, really lovely. I've been just it's so hard to look at the drawer, like the junk drawer, the one in your kitchen, and not just grab everything and throw it away. But I'm like, no, save it because I'm gonna need you at day 31. So I'm like, you go today.
Yeah.
You stay there. I'll get you tomorrow.
You three pens come with me. The five
Yes,
of
put
you
a
left. We'll
blanket.
see you on the 5th.
Tuck it in. Good night, baby. Forehead's kiss.
Have you been keeping track of the hashtag? We have the TMW, the magic word, TMW Mins
Mhm.
hashtag on Instagram and Twitter. Have you been keeping track of everybody's
I
stuff?
have been looking. I've also looked a bit on Instagram. And if y'all don't know what we're doing the men's game. Um, we can elaborate more on that another time. Today will not be that day. But basically, if you are doing it with us, make sure you do hashtag TMW Mins, MINS, and we will go over that. We were gonna go over it this week, and like look at what y'all have been doing and stuff like that. So sorry if that upsets anybody, but we're not gonna do it this week because we have a lot to also talk about.
I did
But
find it funny though that
mm,
some people are like, I just got so excited and here's 4 trash
oh my
bags worth of
gosh,
stuff. And I was like, save it, save
some of
it. Do
y'all
you
are
really?
wild.
But maybe they have that much stuff in their house. Like, and
Yeah,
this is gonna be that catapult to get them to finally get to that moment. Um, so yeah.
that might have just been the garage. I don't know.
You never know.
So
One
I'm
person was
nervous
just
for
like,
some of
I
y'all.
just got so excited and cleaned out my whole on the day one. They're like, I just cleaned out my whole closet. And I was like, you go, girl. But you got 29, no, 30 days more to go.
Yeah, because we got full 31 this time.
Yeah. So
Gosh,
super
I'm
quick for you
nervous.
guys. The men's game is based from the minimalists, 2 guys that are about promoting minimalism in your life, something that our household has been a very big active members of for about 3 years now. But we still have stuff everywhere. I could find probably 10 items just by spinning in my
Mhm.
chair. But for each day of the month, you remove an item for your home. So day 1 item, day 2 items, all the way up to day 31. And it's
Yeah.
496 items that you remove out of your home if you stick to those numbers. There was a few
Oh,
days that I did more than that.
I will say though, I don't look over here and cringe.
Yeah, are your
I've been
boxes?
Yeah, I've been doing giveaways of all of the like PR and convention stuff I've gathered, and it's been nice. So I'm just like, get out of here. I'm not even counting it as men's, honestly. That is just like it just needs to get out of my house.
Did I see? Maybe I saw that you were giving
You did.
away.
Saw one. Yeah.
Okay.
I just drew the winner yesterday, so I'm about to start the next one later on
Are you
today.
creating like, boxes of random things?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, as long as they have like a theme. So I just gave away a trio of Gears of War Funko Pops, and then my next one is going to be makeup from MAC that is not expired. Um, that they have sent me and I just cannot use.
Right.
Uh, and then like I have another one that has to do with Jackbox games. Like there's a shirt, there's game codes, there's a pin, there's a plushie. Like it's just I just have this stuff and I don't
Yeah.
need it
This is
because I
how we
don't have a
create
place
our
to put
swag
it.
bags for charity giveaways. Is
Mhm.
I literally just grab all of the bags that people send us, and then I just fill it up with stuff.
Yeah.
For GCX, this I think it was this no the
It was all year
Gilligan's
before.
Cancer last year,
Yeah.
not this last one, but the one prior. I was shoving in like microphones and headsets
Get it
and
up.
all of this like super expensive stuff that we just had extras of, and I'm like, we don't need it. We appreciate it. But we are trying actively not to take in so much PR stuff this year.
Yeah.
We cut a lot of people off last year. But I mean, someone this from Build Against Cancer, someone's gonna get it probably a full week's worth of ninja clothes because
There you go.
Ben gets one of everything that Tyler sends, and then Ben goes through and picks out his favorite ones. And obviously, like he has practically a month's worth of ninja clothes. And then we're like, well, what do we do with all of
Big
this?
fan, big fan.
I'm still trying to steal his purple and blue tie-dyed sweatshirt that he sent, and Ben's like, I'm gonna wear it. And I keep telling him, if you're not gonna wear it soon, it's gonna go in my closet because it's really cute.
Sometimes you just need a sleep shirt. There you go.
Yeah.
Easy.
Does anybody in chat real quick before we move on to our full topic for today. Did anybody else have any issues with uh men's game this week? Or did they find I have any like revelations where they're like, man, I have way more stuff than I thought I do?
I had
Because
that. I
you had
definitely had
that?
that revelation. Yeah, I have like a side dresser or what do you call it? Nightstand. That's the word.
That's
Um,
interesting.
and honestly, I realize I have not opened the 3 drawers in that in years.
Really?
Years, because I've just, like, subconsciously known I can't use it. It's got T-shirts from whenever Eric was in the military, which was how long 6 years ago. Like, they're just, like, the undershirts that you put under your camis. So I'm just like, "Wow, there's 20 items right there. They're staying there. Like, I'm ready to grab them, but, like,
Oh,
they're
that's
there to
funny. I'm just imagining you're walking around with a sticky note and you're like, this drawer, 20 items,
mental
day
notes. I have so many
20.
sticky notes. It's like, "Ah, yes, I can't wait to get you, my pretties."
You found so much stuff from undergrad that I just got rid of stuff that I dragged through for 4 moves. It's isn't that crazy?
Yeah,
So many people. So I went through all of my art a couple years ago from college, like old sketchbooks and just art that like I'm never gonna put up anywhere. It was probably
yeah,
really like really crummy art. And so I went through and like I saved my favorite ones. I have a box, like a archive, like one archival box that I allow
mhm,
stuff to go in. And then if it doesn't fit in there, it can't stay because it's just so much. I have
yeah.
photographs in there that I can't even tell you when I took them.
Oh my gosh, I feel that.
What?
Also, if y'all are saying that you're too late to start, you're not. You can start now. You just gotta get the items all together. Just add up every single day. So what would that be? What is today? Today's the 7th or
Today's
the
the
8th?
8th.
8. So should I get the
Yeah, get
calculator
your
again?
calculator.
Hang on. Let me get the calculator again. We're doing math because
How do
okay,
you
8
decide on which
plus
sentimental
7.
children's toys and clothes to get rid of? You just start anywhere. I still have clothes from high school that I wear.
36 items.
Yeah, so if you just need to find 36 items, that's honestly so easy. And then as far as getting rid of stuff, make sure that you are appropriately getting rid of it because otherwise it doesn't help if you're just tossing everything. So recycle what you can recycle, give away what you can give away. I had people yelling at me because I was getting rid of a Cold Stone gift card, but they don't have dairy free stuff as far as I know. And so I
Mhm.
gave it to my neighbors so they could take their kids out to have ice cream. Like
I'm trying to
I'm
think
not
about
just going to throw away money. That was literally throwing away money.
yeah.
Take stuff to shelters, women's shelters, especially if you're a woman that's getting rid of clothes. Take those to women's shelters. Same with like kids' clothes; those are great. Otherwise, just find the donation center that works best for you. Everyone has polarizing opinions on which donation center is the one that they
Yeah,
prefer.
and we talked about that last week.
Yes, stick with the one that you like, and also whatever is the easiest for you too, because remember, it
Mhm.
doesn't count if it's just sitting in a box in your garage or in the back of your car.
Yes.
Because
I'm
I
trying to
have a
think about
box
I gave
that's sitting
away
in
art.
my entryway right now, and that's where I'm putting all my stuff. And then when it's full, I will go and get rid of it. But it has like 4 things in it because I've been focusing more on things that I need to recycle and throw away versus actual items because I don't have a ton of physical items to give away to people.
Yeah, I threw away a coaster. And I was like, "This is a really nice coaster. I don't know what to do with it because you I don't know if I donate 1 coaster." It was, like, from Planet Coaster, like, the game. I was like, "It's
Oh,
such a niche, like, I don't know what to do with it." No, I don't know who's actually gonna be like, "Yes, I want this item." So I was like, "You know what? Executive decision to just get rid of you."
right. At a certain point, you're just gonna
Yeah.
get rid of it. Laura said I've also put a bunch of clothes that don't fit me in a plastic tub, and if they don't fit me by
Mhm.
end of summer, they'll be donated. Perfect. If you aren't
Yep.
ready, I have a tub that. So when I donate clothes, if I'm not 100% sure, I put it in one box, and then when I'm ready to donate, I go through that tub again and make sure that it wasn't just like an emotional reaction to put it in the donation box. I'll usually take out like one item most of
Yeah.
the time, and then the rest go into my actual donation box when I'm ready to send it off to ThreadUp. So
Oh, wait, you sent yours to ThreadUp?
yeah,
Oh,
you
I didn't
don't get a
realize
lot of
that.
money back from it. I get like $1.50 for like a sweatshirt, but it's overall it takes a long time because a lot of people send stuff to them, so it takes months. but I just package up a box, slap a label on it, send it to them. They go through and process it. Whatever they can sell, they take out. Otherwise, they responsibly recycle the rest of it.
I feel like at that
Um,
point, it's a surprise when it shows up in your account.
yeah,
You just like,
it
"Oh,
totally is. And then that's the money that I use to buy new clothes, basically.
there you
So
go." That's not a bad idea. I actually never thought about that. I just want it out of my house, so I never take the time with it. I'm just like, "Just go to Goodwill. Get out of here."
but most of the
My
time
brother
with
does,
like
so
Goodwill, they don't, if they are overwhelmed, they usually won't go through stuff and they'll
yeah.
just send it all to recycling. And I'm like, well, that sucks because
Yeah, my brother's been, like, taking my clothing bags that I've just been doing to donate, and he'll go through them and find nice pieces, and he's been hanging them all up, like, he got one of the clothing hangers, and he takes pictures of all of them, he puts them on his Poshmark, and I'm like, "Hey, whatever you make is yours."
I was gonna say, do you take a cut like a cut as a
No,
supplier?
because I just want it gone, so, like, if he wants to take the time, that's on him, and I'm proud of him. Make your
Yeah.
buck. But
So
yeah,
next week we will talk a little bit more
yeah.
about mindful living and intentional living. I kept forgetting that word intentional when I was talking about
Same,
this morning.
don't worry.
We will talk more about intentional living and minimalism. But you ready to move
Yep.
on?
Let's do it.
All
This is
right.
a really
So
bad
we
segue.
yeah, that's a great segue. You ready to just move on? The title of this week's episode is called "What the Hell Happened." Uh, in regards, pull off the band-aid. Yep, let's do it. Let's do our little disclaimer. I wish we had like a
Yeah.
flashing disclaimer sign.
Okay, let's flash. This is our flash. Do it, Sam. Do it with me.
Oh,
Flash, 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 disclaimer,
we about to
disclaimer.
talk politics, but it's not really politics, but it is politics. We are not here to try to debate with
Nope.
anybody. This conversation, and with our guest that we'll bring on in just a minute, is more or less about us just kind of processing what has happened in our nation in the past couple days. Um, I don't know about you, Sam, but when the big things happen, I can't just sit and process them on my own. I need to talk it out with people because I
Same.
ultimately always find something that I was missing or something that I feel like I need to learn more about. And that's what today is. We do have a command in chat that is exclamation point respect. It says, please be respectful of everyone's differing views. We're here to have a fair and decent discussion of recent events happening in America. Um, so yeah,
But
we
we're
aren't
not
ready
going to
to
lie
get into
before.
a lively debate. Obviously,
Nope.
we'll talk, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So we decided to have our first guest this week, and we're super excited. We get to finally use our cute little, fireplace
Other
thingy
background.
here. I really hope that I put the logo back up, but I'm pretty sure I didn't.
Oh no.
So,
Well,
um, our
if
guest
she's there.
today, we'll tell her to unmute in a second, but our guest today is Haley Nick. A lot of you guys
Yeah.
will probably know who she is. I'll have my mods throw in her social and Twitch stuff
Yeah.
in
And if
chat
y'all
here
don't
for
know
you
who she
guys to
is,
please go follow her. But when Sam and I started talking about this conversation of who we wanted to talk with about this kind of stuff, we both instantly were like, Haley. We admire her so much with her ability to present her views and stay steadfast to them, but also not come across attacking. And I think that is a big thing with people that have large views and large followings is that they stick true to themselves, but they don't come off as a bitch, right? So like, and that was something that we when we both started talking about this, we're like, she's one of the people that we really admire when it comes to this kind of stuff. And so we wanted to talk with her about it. I don't know if super quick, Sam, you wanted to kind of give a 10-second brief background on your involvement in politics. I'll
uh,
go ahead.
okay. So mine is very brief, 10 seconds. I never liked politics. I never got into it. I never listened to it. I never paid attention to it. I never wanted to talk about it. Literally until about March of last year. That is the first time I have actually paid attention to politics. I didn't even vote in the last election. Well, not this like election, but like the last election because I did not care. Also, my privilege is showing. So Um, but I started to care. I've started to learn. I used to be right wing, right leaning, Republican, conservative through and through. I am not Democratic. I am not Republican. I'm a very centralist person because I am here to learn and here to listen and here to decipher what I morally believe is right. And that's just kind of where I am. I am like branching out of my bubble, and it has been a journey.
And I was saying this to Sam last night, but as an adult, to be able to go through that transition of being so set in one way
Mhm.
to, wavering a little bit is truly inspiring. You definitely inspire me to make sure that I constantly keep trying to change and evolve too. And it's really great. So yeah, politics and money and all that kind of talk has always been a thing in my family. I, since the age of about 7, knew that I was opposite of what my parents were. And so it was hard for me to learn about politics because I was only getting one side of things from my family. And as a young kid, I don't know where to go and what to do. And so it's just kind of a thing that was always in the background for me
Mhm.
until college, where I would start picking up stuff more and more. But it wasn't until probably the last 5 years that I've actively been trying to learn more and more and more about it. And like you, especially in the last few years, I've been really
Yeah.
trying to ramp up on it. I'm still very much learning. And so, coming from two different stages here, and we'll ask Haley a little bit about her kind of history of politics as well. But are you ready to bring her on? Because I'm like
I'm
99% sure that
ready.
logo is not on that screen.
Well, Haley, are you ready?
I'm
Give
just
me just a
laughing
little
over
magic.
here.
Oh, there she is.
It wasn't there.
Welcome, Haley. Wait, which way should we look? This way? Hi,
Let's
Haley.
see.
Oh,
Yeah,
hi.
it's
Do I
it's
look down?
opposite.
Hey.
Yeah,
Hey
it's
down there. How's
opposite.
the weather?
I feel like we're the Brady Bunch. Like, here's the story.
We really are. Like,
Na, na,
check each other
na.
out. How you doing down there, Marcia?
Oh my goodness. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Thank you again so much for being part of our
Yes.
show. Like I said, you are
You.
our first guest.
I'm
And I don't know
honored.
where to look. Like, do I look up when
I know, I'm
I
like, do
talk
I
to
look
you?
at the screen? Like, where did I look at the camera? I don't know.
But this is our first time actually using this setup. We're in our comfy little cozy fire here. I don't know if you know, notice our kitty cat is in every single one of our scenes. He doesn't have a name yet. So if you have
Name
any
and pet name.
suggestions, please let us know. But
Glue,
I think,
glue,
is
glue.
he like purring in this one? Does he
Yeah,
move in this one?
no, but he's
Okay.
pairing right now. I'm petting.
Be
You're
purring. If I were
petting.
cozied up by the fire, I'd totally
Yeah.
be purring.
So yeah, welcome. If you want to tell us
Thank
a little bit
you.
about yourself and your Twitch stream, and then also a little bit about your political background and kind of how involved you are, and then we will just dive right on in.
Yeah. Um, so first of all, thank you so much for having me. It was like the best intro ever, and I was smiling ear to ear. I was cheesing very hard. So I'm so excited to be here. But for those of you guys who don't know me, my name is Haley. I'm a variety streamer on Twitch. I kind of just do a little bit of everything. Everything from video games to just chatting about whether it's politics or just what's happening in daily life. I am a mom. My daughter is 2.5, and she is a wild thing. She's super fun. And yeah, most of my content is just kind of about whatever's going on in current events. As far as my history with politics, it's actually really similar to kind of like you guys both said, as far as like not getting involved until a little bit later in life. I was pretty involved back in like 2015, 2016, mainly because for a lot of reasons, but I grew up as a Republican. My dad has been a lifelong Republican through and through, to the core. Same with my mom. My mom's a whole other story. We'll get to that later. She's way deep down in Trump la la land. But um, it's been interesting growing up, and as I've gotten older and had my own life experiences, and met different people, how my perspective has changed, and how just you start to learn that hey, my views don't have to necessarily mirror those of my parents or those that I've been raised with. So it was really in the 2016 election and seeing, the first woman get nominated for a major presidential party that I was like, oh my gosh, we really might have our first female president. That got me really excited. And then, 2016 happened. And
Yeah.
that was when I learned I'm just not going to hope anymore when it comes to elections. Like, I'm just not going to do that. And since then, it's just become something really important to me to see, to really watch over the last 4 years what's happened to our country, how the world has kind of viewed us and how their perspective of us has changed. And really all of the like just all the ways that our country has evolved over the last few years and not in ways that I'm proud, not the ways that I'm proud of, if I'm being honest. So I don't know. I feel like as a Twitch streamer, and maybe you guys can agree with this, clearly, given that you have this awesome platform with this podcast, it's an opportunity to talk about things and being able to take advantage of that and talk to other people and see what other people are thinking, whether it's, outside of our own perspectives or inside, I think is a really cool, opportunity and platform to use. So it's been great being able to kind of just not be alone these last really couple years and know that, okay, especially during the pandemic when we can't see other people, being on
Right.
Twitch and being among a community of people who we can talk to about these things. So yeah, that was my really long answer. Sorry.
Real quick for each of you guys, do you feel like being a streamer with a community and a platform, you need to be central or like middle ground to appeal to the majority, or do you need like, so you know what I'm saying? So because you probably have Republican and Democratic and independent, viewers, people from other countries and stuff like that. Do you feel like you need to kind of stay neutral, or are you okay with going, I don't want to say hardcore, but like
Mhm.
being true to yourself loudly and potentially upsetting a large majority, knowing that it's going to be the extremists on one side or the other
Right.
that are going to be upset, not the vast majority. But how do you guys feel about that with your platforms?
No, I am very opinionated. I'm very loud.
Which is
and
why we invited you.
thank you. But I mean, I try and keep my discussions about politics. I always make sure that they're civil, right? We have a respect command in our chat that says all opinions are welcome as long as they're done respectfully and as long as whatever you say, you have a valid source to back it up, because it's so easy to spread conspiracy theories and BS and things that just flat out aren't true over the internet, because if it's on the internet, it must be true, right? So we always ask that, in my chat when I stream, that we, if you want to talk about things, totally fine. If you voted for Donald Trump, I'm not thrilled about it, but if you want to have a discussion about why you believe a certain thing, as long as it's not, alienating and bigoted and, as long as it's a respectful and open conversation where we can all talk about it without it turning into chaos, we're open to hearing that. So my opinions, I'm very vocal about it. I do not like this administration. I think it has been terrible for our country. I think that there's a lot wrong with it. But I also make it very clear that I'm not saying, screw Republicans, none of you are welcome here, because that's just not true. Like I said, I mean, both my parents are Republican. My dad is one of the most respected people in my life, and I value his opinion more than just about everybody else. And like I said, literally lifelong Republican. So to answer the question, I think that no, I don't change my perspective, and I don't try and make it, leaning centrist, so that way everybody thinks or that I'm neutral, because I'm not. That's not who I am. But I do make it a point to say, if you feel differently from me, your opinion is still like, I'm still open to hearing you talk about why you feel the way that you do. It just has to be done in a manner that's respectful and accurate.
Agreed. Sam, how do you guys deal with politics on your channel or on your platform?
So I'm definitely somebody that kind of stays out of politics, mainly because I'm still very much learning. I feel like a little baby learning to crawl right now still. However, I do my best to handle things with as much grace as I can when it comes to differing opinions. I did talk a little bit actually on my stream yesterday about what's going on and everything, and kind of how I feel, and listening to how other people feel as well. But I'm also very open about I am not compliant and I am not okay with you being a Trump supporter. But I also am in the same boat as Haley, where both my parents are.
Smile.
So it's a difficult situation because I choose to love people, I have a lot of empathy for people, and it hurts me to know that they have different views that are hate. I've said it on my stream, and I'll kind of say it here. I think they're brainwashed. So, and it offended some people yesterday. And in the end, I'm not here to sugarcoat and make you feel good about that opinion. Um, I'm not sorry either.
Yeah.
I love that.
For
So,
for
yeah.
us, we definitely like we want to be open to everybody having an opinion. But we, especially myself, I cross the line when it comes to people's livelihood and
Yeah.
their opportunity to even live. I mean, you can go back and forth on how we use our tax money if we fix roads or if we build another building, like that kind of stuff. It wavers back and forth across the line day in and day out. But when it comes to the fundamental rights of a person to be treated the same as other people, that's where I draw the line. So as far as politics, I when it's little things are going to be big to other people and little to other people, right? When it is something that isn't about people actually being able to live and be treated as a human being, I kind of do stay a little more on the quiet side and I just kind of take it in. But once it starts affecting people's livelihoods, that's when I feel like I have the responsibility to speak up a little bit.
Mhm.
And that's kind of how I view it. I think Ben views it pretty similarly as well. So we definitely want to be able to provide a space for people to come together and have discussions and debates and everything. But again, being respectful and being open for discussion, but understanding that you might be wrong and also understanding that I might be wrong in some things too. So
Yeah.
it's hard, right? It's hard to admit that you're wrong.
It is. It's definitely really hard. It's been so difficult on my end, because of my faith specifically. I oh my gosh. If I could tell you the amount of people that have come at me for voting for Biden and being a Christian and being told that I'm not a Christian. Oh
Really?
my gosh. Oh, it's
It's
disgusting.
crazy.
Yeah, because and like
Wow.
the only thing that they ever have that like hangs over is like, "Oh, so you will support abortion specifically." And it's like, "Is that the only thing you're going to try to fight me on?" Can you not realize all of the people that are hurt by like these Proud Boys, hurt by our leader right now, hurt by so many people in the Republican office? Like, it's disgusting. And you expect me, as somebody who was taught explicitly to love from the Bible, to vote that way? No.
Mention that, Sam,
No.
because I was having this conversation with my stream a couple days ago about how it's wild to me how many people who support Donald Trump have also somehow managed to excuse his actions with the Bible and with Christianity,
Oh
and
my
how
gosh.
it would actually, like, I myself am not a religious person, but I know you as somebody who definitely is, but also sees things for what they are and does not support what Donald Trump stands for. So, like, is that something that you really struggle with? Like, do you find that, like, how do people excuse their behavior when the Bible is literally teaching the opposite of everything that they're doing?
I find solace in knowing that nowhere in the Bible does it say that Republican equals Christianity. That's not true.
Right.
Anywhere at all. And if
But and yet
people
so many
try
people
to
try
use
and
that
claim it. Like, I almost feel like they're
too.
taking it. They're, like, trying to hijack it and use it as their own fuel to what they're doing. Like, that would, I imagine that would be terrible and hard to
Mhm.
deal with.
I want to find
It's
somebody that is like a devout religious person that is also a devout Democrat, and I want to talk to them,
Ooh,
and I want
I wanna
to
talk to
like
you.
yeah, I want to see what that's like because Haley, if you don't know, we're atheist. We don't like spout that out everywhere. It's something that we just kind of, if it's in conversation, we bring it up. Um, but Ben was raised Catholic. I was in non-denominational churches that would speak in tongues and lay hands and be healed instantly, dancing in the aisles, kind of. Yeah, like the
Post.
extremist. Yeah, I was raised in that kind of church. And I started separating myself when I was 7, 8 years old. And but I was afraid of that if I actually said it out loud, I was going to instantly die because that's what I was taught.
Oh
Um,
my gosh.
and so I'm very interested to find a devout Christian and also a very strong Democrat and see how they view the world and how the world views them as well. Should be
Oh
interesting.
my gosh.
Hey, that would be
That
really
actually
interesting.
makes me think of like even during BLM, if it was always a lot of the Christians who were just like, no, all lives matter. But if you look at it like from my biblical standpoint, Jesus on the Mount, he was preaching and talking about, blessed are the poor people. And could you imagine if somebody came up to Jesus and was like, no, Jesus, blessed are all people?
Right?
I can just imagine him trying, like walking up the hill. Or a Republican atheist. Yeah, I want to find a Republican atheist too.
No, those definitely exist. I
Yeah.
think my dad is probably one of those.
I was like, are they more the extremists? I don't know. Who knows? So, anyways, another conversation for another day. Haley, if you would like to come back on that day, we will welcome you. with open
Absolutely.
arms.
I'm here for that.
We're going to have to ask Debbie to make us like a gallery wall with multiple picture frames so we can have multiple guests.
That'd actually be cool.
Then it could be like the moving pictures in Harry Potter.
Oh, I love it. You're right. Oh, now we have to do it.
Oh man. So real quick, we wrote a couple very strong points of things that happened on Wednesday. I wrote July. It was not July. January 6th. I don't know. I was dreaming, right? Summer. January 6th was the day that all of the electoral college votes were going to be finalized and people had the opportunity to dispute the results, correct? Earlier in the day, Trump made an appearance at the Save America March, where, sorry, I'm not trying, I can't inject my sarcasm. Trump appeared at the Save America March earlier in the day where he, at the very end of his speech, encouraged people to march up to Capitol Hill afterwards. I didn't actually watch any of that speech. I had a hard time finding it by the time everything started happening in the day. But protesters started to march up to Capitol Hill. They started to cross lines and get closer to the Capitol building and eventually breaching doors and windows into the building. Can you imagine? Like, there was one time we were watching multiple news stations throughout the day, but on CBS, I believe it was, there was like the archway where the president comes out after they have been inaugurated into the next presidency. And they're like, these people are breaking these windows and you get so many amazing, gorgeous shots through this archway. But right now it's just pure chaos. And it just was so weird just to look at that and look at historical images in my head, but then now copy pasting, craziness on top of it. It seemed like the police efforts were non-existent and quickly turned into a mob having access to the whole Capitol building. Capitol building went into lockdown. Shots were fired, and last night 4 people, but now it is 5 people, lost their lives in the very end of the day. A Capitol police officer lost his life last night. And Biden made a live speech, emphasis on live speech, asking Trump to stand up and take control. And Trump then pretty much almost about 10, 15 minutes after that or so, I feel like Trump released what seemed to be a pre-recorded video where he had said a few things that definitely was not probably the favorite of a lot of people, as in, we love you and you're special, to the people that were causing violence. People are eventually escorted out of the building and off the grounds. I think that most of them were gone soon after their curfew, like within an hour or two after their curfew. And that's kind of just that lump sum of those, what it was about 6 hours ish
Yeah.
that whole thing happened,
About right. Something around
something like
there.
that. And it's weird because I have an acquaintance that is a senator, Megan Hunt, who is the senator for our district in Omaha, and
Is it the one you
hearing.
showed me?
Hmm?
Is that the one you showed me?
Yes, yes.
She's so pretty.
Yeah, if you guys don't know who Megan Hunt is, you should totally follow her on Twitter and Instagram because she's just like an amazing person. She started from small businesses in Omaha all the way up to being a senator now, and she's just great.
Fashion
But
icon.
hearing that
Oh,
she
she's
was
beautiful.
there and potentially in trouble, like I started crying because it's somebody that I'm not super close with, but somebody that I know to
Yeah.
be there, and it had to have been incredibly scary. What were your guys' kind of feelings throughout the day as things were happening?
I'm not gonna lie. Whenever okay, so I know I don't need to compare these as the same thing at all in any way, but my feelings with BLM were so much more sad. I cried so much more during that and watching all of those things. And with this other one, I cried once. Um, which is weird to me. I'm very empathetic, and when I see things and see people getting hurt, I get very visibly upset. Um, however, I've just felt kind of numb because it's more so I kind of expected it in a very horrific way. Like it's just it was hard to know that something was coming and nothing was really done to prevent it. And so it's just like, okay, this is our country. What else is new?
I loved
Yeah.
everybody posting the childish Gambino gif where he like it for the music video and he's like, "This is America," and I was like,
Yep.
"Damn it, it's so right."
Yep.
It's so right. Haley, how did you feel throughout the day?
It's so I was streaming pretty early that day because I had done coverage for the Georgia runoff races the night before. So for those who are watching, if you're unfamiliar, there were two Senate seats that were left available after the general election, given that neither race in Georgia reached um, over the 50% threshold that's required. And so basically those last two seats that were available would determine whether the Senate would lean Republican or Democrat.
Mhm.
It was a big race, two very important races. And also somebody mentioned in your chat that Reverend Warnock would be the perfect person to talk about who would be a religious person who's also a steadfast Democrat. And they're absolutely right.
Because he won
So
one of the seats, right?
they won, yeah, both of them ended up going blue. So Reverend
Okay.
Warnock won, and then so did John Ossoff. And I had woken up that morning and Reverend Warnock's race had been called, but John Ossoff's had not yet. And so I was streaming watching that, and then also because they're counting the electoral college votes. So um, it was kind of just like watching history unfold, like live. It was a very eerie experience to be
It
like,
felt like 9/11 to me.
it really like I wanted to go get Hazel from school. I was like, this is actually crazy. Like I don't feel comfortable with my daughter not being here. I this is crazy.
Yeah.
Um, and so to watch it all unfold in real time was just kind of like watching. It felt like not an out of body experience. But kind of like what Sam said. Like this is America, and was anyone surprised by it? No. Like this is Joe Biden came out and was like, this isn't who we are, but sorry, dude, like this is who we are. I hate to say it, but over the last 4 years, like no one is surprised that this is what happens when the rhetoric that's continued to be spread is it's all lies, it's fraudulent, it's fake, it's none of this is fair, your election is rigged. And you have Rudy Giuliani who is up on stage telling his supporters to go for trial by combat and encouraging them to go to the Capitol. And then what happens? They go to the Capitol. Not just go to the Capitol, but they storm it. And also, like Sam said, talking about how the cops didn't really seem to do much to stop it. There's literally video of them opening the barricades, letting them in. There's videos of them taking selfies with the rioters inside the Capitol. And so when you see that this is the way that they react to Trump supporters and a literal mob that overruns the Capitol and vandalizes it and breaks into Nancy Pelosi's office and takes photos of her personal work emails, compared to Black Lives Matter when people are literally marching because they're being disproportionately murdered by police.
They're
And
on their
you
knees.
see the police response, like, this is how we learn that the
Yeah.
police can respond in a manner without killing people, is when they overrun the Capitol. Like, that was just, it was depressing, first of all, oh, so this is how we find out that cops don't have to be this violent. Like, oh, this is
Mhm.
how we learn, is
And I'm
when Trump
pretty
supporters get
sure
involved.
they're taught to shoot to kill if people are invading the Capitol.
You would
Right?
think. You
There
would
was
think.
one video that I saw this morning that got released later on, that there was one officer. I don't know who was recording the video, if it was another officer or somebody that was in the building. But there was one officer that was trying to stop this group of people. And it's one guy against like 20. And they were chasing him up these stairs.
I
And
saw
at
that.
every landing, he would stop and try to stop them. And they just kept going. And the guy that was like the front of it, he's like, "We're just gonna keep going. You can't stop us." And I was
Yep.
like, what? At that point, a gun should have been drawn. But also, that police officer, one against 20, probably didn't know how many guns were actually in that crowd.
So that's the problem too, is that, for one thing, the Capitol Police, they they should have had more people there and they didn't. And there was the opportunity where they were offered backup and they denied it. And that's inexcusable in my opinion, because I try to justify it, right? When I have my opinions on things, I try to do this thing where I'm like, okay, let's look at it from the other perspective, right? Let's try and see all sides. Okay, I'm this cop, I'm in this situation, I'm about to be overrun by mob. How do I handle it? Like, or even the selfie thing. I'm like, okay, you're trying to keep everybody calm and not incite violence. Do you just give in? Like, is this okay? Well, when they were moving the barricade, was this an order that they gave in order to keep things calm? Like, trying to justify it. And when it came down to it, I just wasn't able to. Like, there was no way to do it. And so you're right. There was no reason for that to have escalated the way that it did, despite the fact that they didn't have the backup that they so desperately needed, the fact that they turned it away, and the fact that Donald Trump literally said not to call in the National Guard and Vice President Mike Pence had to do it, was just, oh my God. There's so many things wrong with it. But
Yeah.
I think that when people are comparing it to Black Lives Matter, it's just very sad to see that this is the way that, quite frankly, that white people are treated differently from Black people. This is what white privilege looks like. White privilege means you can storm the freaking Capitol and live, not just live to tell the tale, but record the whole thing and take selfies with cops while you're at it. And it's disgusting.
Yeah, steal a podium.
Yeah, and smile while you're doing it.
Right? That picture, hands down, will go
Yep.
down and it will be in history books.
Yep.
I bet that picture will be in history books
Yep.
of it. And the worst part is, like, his wife is a doctor. She's a smart woman in some aspects, right? Like, it just, the fact that these people are thinking that this is hilarious to do this kind of stuff, aren't thinking about the repercussions of people in their lives too. I mean, what if he has a kid that doesn't believe the same as him, but now they're attached to that, right? People, they don't think about those repercussions as well of the things. But I'm so glad that the FBI was calling for people to send in videos and pictures so they can try to identify as many people as possible. But who knows? Does anybody know how many arrests there have been made?
I looked this morning. I think they said it wasn't many. It was like
It was
40
in
or
the
50.
teens, right? Wasn't it
Well,
like,
originally it was 14. I think they've
yeah,
arrested more since then, but that's the
okay,
whole problem, is that we shouldn't need to have video recording or photos sent in to identify people who were caught there. They should have
right,
been arrested when they were in the Capitol.
yeah.
Like, that's what it comes down to, is we shouldn't have to wait till after the math or after the fact, once they've already had their party and trashed the place, for us to go after them. That should be something that, hey, you're in the Capitol, you just broke onto a federal building and you're under arrest for it. Like,
Also,
that's what it should be.
for these people being so proud and patriotic, what the hell is a Trump flag and a Confederate flag doing above your American flag?
Yeah.
It's disgusting.
They're gonna say,
The curfew was another struggle too. They
it
put in a
was.
6 p.m. curfew and then they just didn't enforce it.
Oh, so people, our first topic that we want to talk about is kind of like people comparing these events to BLM. And there, I don't think there's a comparison
There's not.
that makes them anywhere near the same, because if you saw some of these people's shirts that they were wearing, there was one that was saying that they were calling it the MAGA Civil War with the date on their sweatshirt, which means that they meant to come in and incite trouble, right? And there's
Yep.
people that like they planned this. I feel like the difference with BLM, like the core difference with BLM and with this event, I don't know what we want to even, it doesn't even really have a name or anything, but with this event on Wednesday, is that the people that went there planned to go there. Whether they planned to incite violence or a riot or be part of a mob or not, almost all of them traveled there.
Mhm.
They paid money, they have hotel rooms. CBS called it their vacation and compared it to Disneyland. And I was like, this is hilarious because this is not the happiest place on earth. But to some people, that might be. And it was just so crazy because BLM, people just walked out their doors to go be involved. Um, and very few people that I know of traveled to specific locations just to be a part of it, compared to almost all of these people that went to this march. Uh, they pre-planned this. So who knows how many people pre-planned to cause chaos. There was a picture of a guy that had the really thick zip ties on his belt.
Saw that.
He planned something. He planned to take hostages of some kind if he needed to.
And I
Right?
also think the other big issue is also just what their march you can't call this marching, what they did was not marching, but what they were upset about. Like Black Lives Matter, everybody marching is upset about the fact that the Black community is disproportionately murdered by police at an alarming rate. And they're fighting for equal rights against police brutality. The people who mobbed and destroyed the Capitol were pissed that their guy lost.
Yeah, I explained this to Charlie yesterday. Because so we let Charlie watch the news with us all day long on Wednesday, and
Mhm.
answered questions as he had them. He's 5, so like he's not really paying attention too much. But we started kind of bringing him into the conversation in about October, with the election coming up. We didn't want to start too early because we didn't want to have something like that last so long that he would forget things. So we started about mid-October and talking to him about the election and about the different people that were going to be a part of it and stuff like that. And he came to his conclusion on his own that he would pick Biden because he asked us questions. Yesterday, we're driving to get his hair cut, and he said, Mommy, was yesterday the day that Joe Biden was the president? And I said, No, buddy, why is that? And he's like, Well, I saw him on TV and we didn't see President Trump on TV. So I thought that he was already the new president. And I was like, Nope, not yet. and and I was like, Do you remember what yesterday was about? And he's like, Well, kind of. He said there was a lot of mad people, but why were they mad? I said, Well, they were mad because Trump lost. And he's like, Oh, okay. And I was like, Do you remember last year when we watched something similar in a 5-year-old's mind? People, on TV protesting.
Yeah.
And he was like, Kind of, but I don't remember why. But I just remember there was a lot of angry people. And I explained to him BLM again, and he's like, Oh yeah. And I reminded him that he has people in his life that are Black or of other people of color, and how basically dumb it down and explain to me like I'm 5 the whole situation. And I was like, So do you think that these events are the same or different? And he said, Well, I think they're different because some people are getting really hurt and other people are just mad because they lost a game. And I was like,
Yep.
Ooh, Charlie boy.
He's
He's
so
so
smart.
smart.
I can't handle it. But it was so interesting to see a 5-year-old. And when we talk to him about this kind of stuff, we try to talk with the least amount of bias that we can. We try to be so centralized when we talk about this kind of stuff with him because I was indoctrinated, right, to think a certain way, as is most kids are. And we want him to be able to believe what he wants. So we really try. Ultimately, he ends up siding with us on a lot of things. But ultimately, we try to keep it very neutral so that way he can come to his own opinions on things. What's his opinion on foreign policy? I don't know, but we can get into that conversation on a different day.
You'll have to ask him
So
later.
it definitely there is no comparison between the two. Yeah, like you said, one people are just mad that their guy lost. Other people are fighting for their right to live.
Mhm.
There is no comparison. You lost a game of kickball, or you can't walk out of your house without getting hurt.
Yeah.
Like it simplifies down to that little bit of thing. So people can debate me all they want on their opinions on why and stuff like that, but when people say, well, there was no fire, nothing was burning, and only 5 people died on Wednesday compared to the blah 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 BLM, and I was like, dude,
I'm gonna pull my
it's
hair.
not the same. Don't say that Republicans are crazy, or sorry, Democrats are crazy because things got set on fire. Don't say that Republicans are smarter and nicer because nothing got set on fire. Because it's not the same at all. And I can't even like begin to reach down into the bottom of the barrel and try to find a reason why they could be.
Call it what it is. The Proud Boys are Nazis.
Yep. And the struggle there
Call it what
too,
it
I
is.
think, is that there's a select group of people that truly cannot be reasoned with when it comes to their actions and their beliefs. And they will excuse the behavior of every Trump supporter ever because they don't trust the mainstream media, which is telling them how it actually is, right? Like even my mom is a perfect example of this. When I say she's deep down the rabbit hole, I mean, it's like she doesn't watch Fox News anymore. She watches OANN. Like she refuses, like it's actually really bad where she's at. And the perfect example of this is Wednesday happens and I don't really talk to my mom because she and I just it doesn't go very well when we talk about things, especially regarding politics. But my sister sent her, that photo of the guy sitting and in on the House floor where Nancy Pelosi had just been sitting in the big seat with the gavel, and you can see people below wearing the red MAGA hats. She sends this picture to my sister and says, "Looks a lot like Antifa," and I was just like, "Are you kidding?" Like they're literally your people who you're seeing like waving QAnon flags, saying Q sent me. You can find their profiles on Parlor who are bragging about it. And somehow you justify what's happening by saying looks a lot like Antifa. Like there's a lot of people that truly just cannot be reasoned with. And they will not listen to sense. And I think that's really, really scary because us having these conversations, I think, is so helpful, especially for people who are open to discussion and want to talk about what happened and are willing to engage in this type of narrative because it's important to talk about the facts and what actually happened and why it's dangerous. But people who just refuse to pull their heads out of the sand, a lot of those people are the ones who stormed the Capitol. They just are, and it makes it really scary to realize that there's a lot of people who just will not listen to sense. And so that's why Jake Tapper from CNN was talking about how the only person who can really call this off is Donald Trump. And so we saw Trump tweeted this video yesterday after he was banned from basically all social media platforms indefinitely, except for Twitter.
But wasn't he like silenced on Twitter for like 12 hours? Didn't
12
they
hours.
say? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, they deleted like 3 of his tweets and they said that he was on a 12-hour ban. Meanwhile, Facebook, Instagram, and Snapchat all banned him indefinitely. But this was his like version of conceding. And still it's like, dude, it's too little too late. That's just not enough. You can't do this after the fact when during this riot in the Capitol, you're telling all of your supporters who are there, you're very special and we love you. Like that's just so nutso to me that it's hard for me to wrap my brain around it. It really is.
That's a backhanded compliment if I ever heard one.
Like, go home. You're very special. We love you. Like, oh, okay. Or Ivanka Trump calling them patriots and then deleting the tweet. Oh my
Yeah.
God, it's so
Did
bad,
you
you guys.
see?
It's so
Okay,
bad.
super side note. You guys watch Hercules and Xena when you were younger?
Mhm.
Been a long time.
I actually
Okay,
just watched Hercules 2 nights ago.
Ben Sorbo, is that his name? Who played Hercules?
I don't know.
He's very right side. And he or like retweeted a thing that said those people don't look like patriots to me. Lucy Lawless came flying in and destroyed him and was like, hey there, Peanut. That's because they're blah, 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 blah. And I was like, I've always loved Xena more than Hercules. Like, Xena, Warrior Princess, one of my first girl crushes. And so to see her come in and just completely knock him down, and I was like, oh my gosh.
Yikes.
Yeah. It was the best. Super side note talking about that. So we have a lot of people in chat that says where was there's a lot of different disinformation that's being put out there, right? So where do we find our credible sources, right? Because so many people are like, well, I saw this on Twitter, I saw this on Twitter, and I saw this on Twitter. And it's so easy to find information, not necessarily false or true. It's all opinionated information for the most part. And we talk with Charlie. He wants to be a scientist when he's older. So we taught him the scientific method, and we use that to problem solve in all parts of our life. And we always start with, is it fact, fiction, or feeling? And that's something that, because he'll be like, that food is disgusting, and I'm like, is this fact, fiction, or feeling? Because I think this food is amazing and you think it's disgusting. And he's like, feeling. So that means that he knows that what he's saying is opinion. And I've been using a lot of that with social media and trying to find information. I'm asking myself, is this that I'm reading, is it fact, fiction, or feeling? Because so many people can be like, blah, 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 Trump is this, but that probably is just a lot of feeling behind it, unless I can go find some more credible fact sources, or maybe I find out it is fiction. And how do you guys go about finding your information to make sure that you are not just taking in the wave of emotions that come from social media?
I can talk a lot about this, so I'm going to let Sam answer first. If you want. Otherwise, I can by all means.
Um, Honestly, I mostly listen to what my brother finds. I'm usually streaming, and after that, my mental health will go to the dumps because I am so uh empathetic. Like, I see somebody getting kicked, I'm going to cry. Um, so a lot of times I wait until I hear it from credible friends. My brother, who does a lot of research and things like that. I usually don't go out and try to search for it myself unless I'm caught doom scrolling for a moment. And then I'm all over the place and I'm like, I gotta stop. So personally, I don't go and do all of the research. I wait until it's people that I really trust in my circle who I know that their opinions have been sorted through properly. So, yeah, I'm not somebody that you want to get your sources from.
Yeah,
That's
but
okay, though.
a lot of people probably feel that way too.
Yeah.
Like it's really overwhelming, especially when social media is throwing so much at you at once
Yeah,
to try and
it's rough.
discern that. And media literacy is so important. I actually I don't know if either of you knew this, but I actually went to journalism school. So I went to the Walter Cronkite School of Journalism at ASU, and originally my plan was to be a news anchor. That was like the dream. Until my empathy started showing, and I realized how negative the news was. And it was actually the Sandy Hook shooting when that happened that I literally had this moment where I was like, I literally can't do this. And I switched to print instead because there was no way I could interview 5-year-olds who just seen their friends die. So I care a lot about the news, and I care a lot about media literacy and accuracy. And it's so important to be able to find news that's accurate. And I think the way to discern it is, one, we have to stop believing the lie that mainstream media is all fake. Like that's such a dangerous
Yeah.
narrative to believe that, and I'm not saying that the news isn't biased. The first thing we were taught in journalism school was that we strive to be as accurate and unbiased as possible, but remaining completely unbiased is not actually possible. So no matter what, in some way or another, the way that you write, your bias will show to some degree. Mind you, I think that especially, CNN or Fox News, they have gotten way, way, way more biased over the last 4 years than they ever were beforehand. But that doesn't mean that the things that they say are not credible. So the best method is, if you're going to get your news from social media, you need to look at who's posting it, right? If you see a tweet from, I used Jake Tapper as an example earlier. He's a lead member of CNN's news crew. Okay, I trust him. Or if you see somebody that you don't necessarily know on social media and they post something, go to their page, see who it is that they work for, right? Is it the Wall Street Journal? Is it the Washington Post? Is it MSNBC? Are these actual news people? Or is it a verified account and you go and they just have like, their own political podcast? Okay, I don't know that I necessarily trust that. Another thing is finding multiple sources.
Mhm.
And keep in mind, a lot of these big news outlets, the New York Times, they all have social media accounts. So even if you're getting your news from Twitter or Facebook or Instagram or wherever, if you're getting it from the accounts of these major news outlets, that's still trustworthy, right? That's still the same as if you go and click the actual article.
Yeah.
So making sure that the people that you are getting the news from are reliable, it's as simple as clicking their profile. Most of these reporters will have the outlet that they work for listed there. And like I said, if you do a simple Google search and you see that reliable sources are reporting it, chances are you're fine. But if you go and you see the source reporting it as a random website you've never seen before, or like Democrats Daily or Conservative Daily, like that's obviously not going to be a factual, not unbiased outlet. And also sources, like, when you read these articles, there will always be the source of where that information came from. That's how the news works. So if something happens, it'll say per this, the person who said it, or per this source, and then they'll link where they got their information from. So it's just about being diligent and not, like, kind of like what you said earlier, Sam, about, is this fact, fiction, or feeling, not reacting immediately with your feeling, but doing enough research. So like, hey, this makes me upset, I want to retweet it. But before you actually hit that retweet button, clicking just a few more times to make sure it's accurate.
Mhm.
Because especially when on Facebook, Facebook's the freaking worst. How it's so easy to just share a meme,
Yeah.
right? And especially the ones that are literally just been like screen capped 47 times, and the quality of it just
It's
continues
so
to get
bad.
more and more distorted.
Yeah.
And it just says something stupid. It doesn't have any facts whatsoever or sources. It's easy to buy it, right? Like for people who aren't necessarily media literate, to be like, that makes me angry, I'm going to share it. And that's what these people who create this content are counting on. So and I think that falls on to not just us learning to be media literate, but also, Facebook and Twitter and Instagram and all these major platforms, to strike down fake news. If you see it's fake, strike it down. Like that,
Yeah.
this is a really big problem, because not everybody understands and not everybody believes that the news is actually legit. Donald Trump has been drilling into the brains of his followers for years that the media is lying, the media is fake, it's fake news, it's not real. It can't be trusted. You can't trust these people. And so it's no shit, people don't trust the media. It's
Right.
not surprising. So yeah, it's something I'm really passionate about. That's why I always say when people talk in my chat about it, to please have a source. And if your source is BS, and I had somebody link me a source the other day for something, and on the top of the article was like links to other articles, and one of them was like 20 instances of where a gun has saved lives in 2021 so far, and I was like, oh my god.
No.
I was
Twitter
like, yeah, I'm not
actually
reading
had
this. Send me a
a
different
really
source.
cool thing. Twitter had a cool thing. So I retweeted about Trump talking about pardoning himself.
Mhm.
And I had read the article on the actual website. So, and when I went to, it was the LA, I don't remember exactly which newspaper it was that I read it on, but I went to Twitter and I saw it again, that somebody else had posted about it. and I went to retweet it, but Twitter came up with a little warning box that said, "You are about to retweet a link that you haven't clicked on yet. Are you sure you want to do this?" And I was like, go off Twitter. Like,
Yep.
good for holding people accountable. That, and I almost wish that there would be a little disclaimer that came up that had said that, like, user retweeted this without clicking the link kind of thing.
I know,
So I
that
clicked
would
the
be
link.
great.
And so that way, like, it showed up that I had, read it, because I didn't know what it was going to say if I just retweeted it without it.
Right.
But it just made me so happy that they were holding people accountable for sharing information. I feel like as far as platforms go, yeah, they still are letting Trump, do his thing, but they are holding people more accountable for their views and their opinions than a lot of social media platforms, which I super appreciate.
Yeah. And as someone who's like learning where to really get their sources and stuff like this, I really appreciate, Haley, what you've said, and Sam as well. Because it's always difficult for me to maneuver as somebody who is very much learning politics and everything. I even had to ask Sam last night. I was like, what is Antifa mean?
I know. And,
Yeah,
and a lot of people know
I'm
that.
not.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's okay that I don't know. It's the fact
Mhm.
that I'm learning. And if you're also in that boat, don't let people think you stupid for not knowing, but be willing to learn.
I feel like your
100%.
opinions are very valuable. People's opinions are valuable. You can kind of equate them to money, right?
Yeah.
And you wouldn't expect somebody to go into a poker tournament without knowing fully how to play poker, because then they're just going to throw their money away.
Mhm.
Same thing goes that you wouldn't expect somebody that doesn't have the full knowledge of politics to go start throwing their opinion into politics without learning first, because they're throwing their money away. And that's where we cause a lot of harm. So when you're like, I don't know, that's okay, because you know what, you're being responsible with your political opinion. And I think that's something that you should take your time with, and you should be proud with. And that's why we're having these conversations with people that, this side that have more knowledge than us, so that we can learn too. Because if all of a sudden if you're going in with not your fact, probably some fiction and a lot of feeling, and throwing out all these views and opinions and stuff, Sam, you have an influential platform. You could potentially change somebody's opinion on something. And
Which is why it terrifies me.
if you aren't fully educated on it,
Yeah.
then you could be doing harm. So good, take your time. Ask all the questions. There's never a stupid question, right? Isn't that always the thing that we're always told, is that there's no such thing as stupid questions?
Yeah. It's so funny you mention that though, because I feel like I have learned more about politics and our government and the way that our country runs over the last few years than I ever did in school. Like
Yeah.
I learned, I had an economics class, I had a government class when I was in high school, and I think I had one or two in college. But when it comes down to like the way that our country works and how one thing leads to another, and the way that policies affect us directly, and the way our taxes run, and the way that like how we elect our elected officials, and where like all of this information, I learned so much of it on like just through the internet and through people talking about it. And now that we're so much more connected and people can discuss so much easier rather than sitting in a classroom with a textbook, I feel like it's easier to learn these things faster. Especially when you do have other people that you can talk to about it and ask questions from. But it does go back to what we were discussing earlier as far as, where do you learn it? Right? And who do you ask about it? And, I think there's something to be said of doing your own research and going out there and kind of like what you do, Sam, just who you trust. You have people in your life that are do their own research. And if it seems daunting to go out there and figure it out, having those people who can lead you in the right direction, I think is really important. So I totally agree. I think it's important
I
to
trust
just do
y'all.
your part. I trust you too.
So what's next? We have, today's the 8th. We have 12 days. We already know that Trump's not showing up,
Mhm.
which, that could be a whole 2-hour conversation anyways, because
Mhm.
that is the one of the most disrespectful things you can do, right? I'm trying to think of an example of what it would be equal to things that we could experience in our lives, right? That'd almost be
Mhm.
like the captain of a team that you're on is they've already served their captain years or whatever, and now you're the new captain, and they're like, well, I'm not proud or happy that I'm not captain anymore, so I'm just going to bounce and good luck. That's kind of what it feels like. And nobody's surprised, right? But it just feels like the biggest middle finger to not Biden, but to everybody.
So CBC just tweeted this out at 9 a.m. this morning and said only 3 outgoing presidents have not attended the inauguration of their successor. And they were John Adams in 1801, John Quincy Adams in 1829, and Andrew Johnson in 1869. So
Well, people with initials J and A apparently previously.
apparently. Yeah.
A and J and J and A.
So since in 1869, every single president has been at the new inauguration.
And it's one of those things that, like, it's a humility thing, right? I want to believe when Trump became president, I cried. I called my dad and we had a conversation. And he was like, he's your president now. And I said, yeah, I understand that. And you know what? He's my president, worked his way to get there. I am going to respect him as my president until he proves me wrong. It took him like a week. But I sucked it up. I sucked it up and I gave him the opportunity to prove me wrong. It didn't take him long to do so. But I feel like as him exiting, he needs to suck it up. And you know what? If he wants to be petty later and be like, I told you he wasn't going to do a good job, then cool. That's fine. If that's the way it's going to be. If Biden does a worse job than Trump, then cool. Trump can be like, I told you so all along, but only if he follows through with his duties. Right now, he's not following through. He's at the end of the race and he's just like, oh, there's already somebody in front of me. Well, I'm just going to go sit down on the bleachers instead of finishing this race. And that feels like just the biggest middle finger in the whole entire world to us. I don't care about Biden, but it feels like he gave up on our country. Granted, he's not doing the greatest things, in my opinion, for our country, but it also sucks to feel like your president just gave up and abandoned you.
Yeah.
And so many people are talking about impeachment, the 25th Amendment, and him resigning, or like all that kind of stuff. But we're only 12 days away. Can any of that actually be accomplished?
Apparently, yes. From what I've been reading. I think the best tweet that I saw was somebody saying they should invoke the 25th or follow through with impeachment as quickly and efficiently as they did replacing Ruth Bader Ginsburg in the Supreme Court. And I'm like, damn, louder for the people in the back. So it's possible if everybody is accommodating and actually participates. The problem is, will they actually be accommodating and participating? I don't know. I know that there's a lot of growing support from Republicans to invoke the 25th. The problem is that invoking the 25th Amendment will not stop him from running again.
Right.
And impeachment and conviction will. So the scary thing is his group of supporters, they're not going away overnight. It's not like Inauguration Day happens and they bang the gavel and they all just disappear.
Because we all saw that did not happen when it switched from 2020 to 2021.
Exactly.
Everything
when the
still
virus
here.
was supposed to disappear January 1st.
Yeah. I wish.
You're right though. And so that being said, it would not surprise me if 2024 came around and he ran again and got the Republican nomination and then won. And this is, I hate to compare it to Nazi Germany because I don't want to predict that we're going down that road, but there is a lot of consistency of the way that Donald Trump
said it.
Yeah, seriously, there's a lot of consistency with Donald Trump's, climb to power and that of Adolf Hitler. There just is. It's not hard to look up the comparisons online. So
did you guys see the video of, who was it that was talking at that march that was saying that Hitler did one thing right?
Yeah, it was a congresswoman. And she was like, Hitler was right on one thing.
I was like, you could have picked so many other three people.
Oh my
You want to know who else
God.
said something similar to that? Nelson Mandela. Like,
God, it's just insane. And then the scary thing is, yeah, there's only 12 days left. Dude can do a lot of damage in 12 days. Like
yes.
nobody should underestimate what he is capable of doing in the next 12 days.
I saw the political cartoon of the two buttons on his desk. One was Twitter and one was nuclear bombs. And then
he
like
fire missiles.
yeah, and then like the Twitter one was like covered or something like that where he couldn't get to it, and I was like, F.
Yep.
um,
Yep.
yeah, not a lot of things can happen, but enough things can happen. Do we think that he will potentially try something, or do you think that he is just going to stomp around kind of like a baby? Charlie's words that I was like, do big kids or babies act like that? And he said, babies do.
That's right, Charlie.
And but then he said, it's also a good thing that babies can't start fires. And I was like, well, but do we think that he's actually going to try to stick it to us in a very passive aggressive way? Or is he just going to stomp around like a baby and then, just pout on his way out?
Well, I mean, isn't he going to try to pardon?
There was discussions of him. He was discussing with people that he was interested in figuring out if he can pardon himself. It's never been done before.
Right.
So we don't know. But if
it would shock me if he didn't.
Right? If it comes up to one of those things that he can pardon himself, that's a huge abuse of power, and that needs to be changed real quick. Like Biden should come in and be like, I don't think I'll ever need this. Let's change it today, kind of thing. But granted, that only saves him from federal offenses. But then he was also talking about potentially pardoning his kids and his family, close family members.
Oh.
Again, only federal offenses. So like state's still going to come for you. But
well, keep in mind, and when you're pardoned, it means that you need to be not only convicted of a crime, but you need to be pleading guilty.
Correct.
So for Trump, I don't think that he's actually been charged with anything by any federal standpoint.
So unless he just comes out on his own. Unless he just comes out his own and was just like, hands up, I'm a bad guy.
Yeah, and I don't know that even that would work, right? You'll probably if he gets charged with anything, it'll likely be after he leaves office. But I don't think that means after you're pardoned, you're just like forever immune to anything. I think that if he pardons himself and then he's charged afterwards, I don't know that pardon will still be applicable. And I actually don't know the answer to that. If anybody in chat would knows more to that, by all means. But I think that's the whole reason that the federal government has waited to charge him with anything, is because he could there's the possibility of him pardoning himself.
Yeah. I was talking to our lawyer a little bit about it. And it's something that it's never been done. So nobody knows if it actually can be done. Or if it can't, or what steps need to happen. So either it's just going to come out of left field or it's going to go away. There's no in between. And that's kind of scary. Haley, you mentioned that on the 20th, it's not a switch that Biden's just going to flip and things are going to be better. I know we're kind of coming up on towards the end of our time, so I don't want to not touch on all of our bases and then still have time for everybody to ask some questions and stuff. But what do we have to keep in mind for the coming months with Biden taking over? Obviously, a lot of Trump's administration, they're gone, right? Mm-hmm. And we're bringing in a new set of people. I'm afraid that some people will be so exhausted from Trump's administration that they will just give big hugs to everybody in Biden's administration without taking their time to learn about them. I don't think that Biden and Harris are only bringing in angels. I'm sure there's some people that, everybody is out for themselves, right? So even the president obviously is serving his own interests, because obviously he wouldn't change things if he didn't think otherwise. So what do we have to kind of keep in mind coming up in the next 6 months that you can think of?
I think just holding everybody accountable is the biggest thing right now. That the special election in Georgia is done, Democrats have no excuse. They have the House, they have the Senate, and they have the presidency. And when you have all three, that's when things can really get done. So there's no more excuses of, oh, we had a Republican Congress, because they don't. Um, and was Joe Biden my pick for the nomination? No, he wasn't.
Neither.
Do I
Same.
think that he will do a substantially better job than Donald Trump? Absolutely. Is his cabinet perfect? No. But I think AOC said it perfectly when they were talking about fracking and how Joe Biden would not come out and say he was against fracking. He just wouldn't, even though Kamala Harris had said numerous times that she at least was. And AOC is also against fracking. And so I think it was CNN who was interviewing her, and they were like, "Well, does this bother you that Joe Biden won't admit to it?" And she was like, "Honestly, I want to get him elected first, and if he wins the election, then I'm looking forward to talking to him about it um, when it comes down to it, like when that is on the table." So I think just holding our elected representatives accountable. But you're right. A lot of people are going to be so tired after Trump is out of office, and it's going to be a breath of fresh air to have somebody who's actually capable and coherent and not narcissistically insane leading our country, that it's going to be easy to fall into that state of being complicit. Um, and so I think that if Donald Trump has done one good thing, it has made everybody care that much more about politics. And so for me, I'm not going anywhere. Like, even though it'll be nice to not have to like wake up with severe anxiety every day and wanting to just immediately check my phone to see if our country's on fire yet, it's going to be great not having that feeling.
Right.
There are still things that need to be done. We still have issues, whether it's, healthcare or, like Black Lives Matter. There's so many issues that are still happening around our country that we need to follow up with, that, again, like you said, it's not just January 20th comes around and everything's bright and shiny and rainbows and butterflies. That's just not how it works.
We still have a global pandemic that we need to figure out with
I forgot about that for an hour.
Right?
Yeah.
That's
We're
what's
still
so
in a
crazy,
pandemic.
is that there's so much stuff going on that what do you choose to worry about today? Like, I
Truly.
feel like when I take my CBD, one is for this and one is for this and one is for this.
Yep.
And like chewing my gummies, I'm like, this one is for the presidency and this one is for the pandemic and this one is for me just getting through my own job.
Yeah.
And I think for me, with Biden, I don't expect a complete rollover by the time he's done. I want him to get us to the point of being able to breathe. My requirement of him is to get us to a spot where we are just able, like you said, to wake up and to just be happy that we live in America. Not
Until
necessarily. Yeah, it's going to take a long time. I'm not expecting him to come through and make waves everywhere. I'm not. He's not the person to do that. But all I want for him is just to get us to a spot where we can actually not be so tense that we can have conversations and make change. Right?
Yeah.
That's not asking a ton. But it's asking even more, though, from the people of our country. It's not asking a ton from him. It's asking a ton from us to allow that to happen. And that's, I think, is going to be the hardest thing. It's going to take at least a year before we can get to that point.
I think
Minimum.
the hardest thing is just going to be, because we're so divided and because everybody is so heated and opinionated and feels so aggressively about the other side. Like, truly, our nation has never been more divided. You're right, it's gonna take time. And you also said earlier how it's hard to admit when you're wrong. So hard. No one likes to admit that they're wrong, especially to a big group of people. Um, but in order for us to actually move forward with Biden's call for unity and peace and moving on and coming together, there has to be a certain amount of that for us to be able to have these conversations, no matter how opinionated we are, and say this is what America decided. We're moving forward. The votes were cast. They're legit, whether you like it or not. And this is the way that we chose. And being able to, who's that up to? It's up to, like, I know I'm willing to do that. I'm willing to talk to people 100%, but will the followers of Donald Trump be so willing to accept the fact that he is no longer the president? I can't answer that. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
The one thing that I really see a little glimpse of hope for the responsibility of the people is with COVID, with Biden's COVID plan.
Hmm.
Whether that, you know, that's ultimately going to change. But when they first released their first draft of their COVID plan, it relied heavily on the responsibility of the American people in each area to follow the rules. It was almost like the danger meter, right? Like it's green, yellow, and red kind of
Right.
thing. And or I kept joking that it was like the stoplight that you had in your elementary lunchroom.
The noise one.
Then that's exactly what it is. When the virus gets too loud, you got to shut up. And that I was so happy seeing that he put the responsibility on us because that's how it's going to happen. I mean, he could tell us day in and day out that everyone's got to be locked up, but then you know that people are going to freak out when nobody likes getting told what to do. But when you have choices and repercussions from those choices laid out clearly in front of you, then there is no excuse. It's literally our problem at that point. And to have responsibility put on us, um I think is one of the smartest things. Other than him coming in and locking down the whole entire country and being like, you're all grounded, because that's not going to get anything done. People are going to freak out then, right? We're all
Mhm.
teenagers, basically.
Don't tell me what to do, Mom.
Yeah. You're not my president.
Oh, you know that's coming.
But then do we want
Yeah, exactly.
to
So I don't know. I don't know. Do we want to answer some questions in chat? I think let's try. If you guys have any questions, I'm not going to even put any kind of stipulations on it. If you have any questions about the things that we've already talked about today, we will try to grab a few of them before we have to go. I hope you guys did though have a nice time hanging out, listening, whether you fully agree with our opinions or not. Again, we weren't coming on to the show today to incite a debate of some kind. This is literally just us kind of trying to fully process what was going on because it was a lot of stuff thrown at you in one day, especially between Georgia and between the Save America March and then the Capitol building and then people dying and then Biden's speech and then Trump's speech and then getting kicked off of social media. And like, there's just so much stuff. We didn't even talk about people resigning, right?
Hey,
We
Oh my
didn't
god.
even talk about that.
There's a lot.
So it's just a lot. So that's why we kind of wanted to just have an open conversation. I've asked this earlier, but I'm curious since you all have young children, I'm curious how you're going to talk with them about the recent news. I know Mrs. Doug Lupo told how she's doing it with Charlie. How are you guys handling it with your kids? I know Hazel's a little too young to. She's 2, right?
2.5.
Two and
Yeah.
a half. Okay.
She's at that point where, we obviously talk to her and we try and keep things as open and communicative as possible in most aspects of our life. But this is something that obviously is pretty above her in
What
every
about
situation.
then? How are you guys kind of teaching her to be inclusive?
And every way that we can, whether it's the toys that we give her or the people that we interact with, representation is a huge thing. And when it comes down to it, Hazel is blonde hair, blue eyed white girl. And even though her entire family, aside from me and my side, is Hispanic, and she's going to grow up with, our last name is Baez. My husband's family is entirely Puerto Rican. They're teaching her Spanish. Like she's going to see a lot of that, which is so great. Um, where we live does not have a high population of minorities aside from
Mhm.
Latinas and Latinas. And so, even just like her baby doll, we got her a black baby doll. So that way she could see, okay, like this is, she doesn't need to have another representation of herself when that's pretty much all she sees. So just showing it to her in other ways that we can. So even if it's like the content that we introduce her to or the books that we read her, just making sure that she's seeing that there's more to this world than just people who look like you and me. Um, and that's, now she gets older and gets and understands more of what that means. We'll be able to talk to her about that more. And explain the way that, that things are. But for now, we try and be as inclusive as possible in the ways that we have.
What
Oh,
about
I
with
love.
Leif?
We had like the tiniest little conversation. Honestly, he wasn't paying attention. He was in one ear and out the other. That kid was just like, and dinner's good. So we really have not had much of a conversation with him. My brother and my husband tried, and it just maybe we'll get through.
Yeah.
But we
Someone
did basically kind of reiterate to him that whatever you hear out there, to make sure you formulate a proper opinion and that you take it all in and don't rely on people telling you how to think. Instead, listening and determining how you want to think. So he knows that, but that's pretty much as far as it's gone. So
Yeah. Someone says, so is it selfish
Deep
to
though.
choose not to try exhausting myself with educating people older than myself? I'm 21 about what is happening. I don't want people to walk over me and say I'm wrong when I stutter. Um, so is it selfish to choose not to try exhausting myself with educating people older? Okay. So basically like educating your parents. Is that I think that's what I'm taking from that.
Yeah, me
Um,
too.
this is something that actually I read or that we had when we talked about cancel culture, Sam, a few weeks ago. We had
okay.
Rec in here, and she said, "What if I'm exhausted?" I don't know if you guys know. I don't remember the numbers after her name. Um, Rec1568 on Twitter. She is a Black content creator, and she was in here and was like, "What if I'm exhausted talking about this and I'm not seeing any change?" I don't blame you. I don't. That is where I have an issue of where our responsibility lies.
Hmm.
Does our responsibility lie in continuing educating every single person that we know, even though they might take it or they will take it? I don't know. If you're exhausted, then obviously you're probably not going to be giving the correct information because you're just going to try to spew it out as fast as you can to get people off your backs because you're
Yeah.
just mentally over it. But also, is it your responsibility? I don't know. That is one of those damned if you do, damned if you don't kind of things, right?
Yeah, it's the same thing even with some of us having our platforms that we do. Uh, if you're quiet, you're compliant, and people will hate you for that. If you say something, you're against them, and people will hate you for that. Um, in the end, make sure you're also taking care of yourself. This is difficult to maneuver, regardless of which side you're on. So I don't think you should be exhausting yourself personally. um, say your piece, and if people want to try to come at you and you do not have the spoons to handle it, then don't handle it. That's me mommying you right now. Take care of yourself.
Yeah,
I
I
agree. I
don't
mean, it's tough when you, especially depending on who you're talking to. That
Yeah.
like I gave up a long time ago trying to talk to my mom about this stuff because I just knew it would make a difference. Um, and ultimately, like especially for what it means to have white privilege and how unfair it is to minorities in every capacity. Like it's actually really interesting because my first instinct when Black Lives Matter became as huge as it was over the summer um, was to ask my Black friends, like, "Hey, what am I doing wrong? Like, what do I need to be better at? Tell me how I can improve." But when it comes down to it, it's not their job to teach us about our privilege. It's just
Yeah.
not. And at first, my first reaction to that was to be defensive, like, "But I'm only trying to be better. I'm trying to not do this." Like, we shouldn't be depending on the very people who have been oppressed to tell us how we can not oppress them. Like, it's our job to learn ourselves and to educate ourselves, whether it's through books or podcasts, or it's not hard to find, examples of white privilege in just everyday life and everyday society. And so really just listening and doing our part to learn without depending on the people who are suffering is a
Yeah.
big thing. So I understand why I totally get why she's tired. Like I absolutely do, um, And you make a good point too, Sam, about how ultimately, like, you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't in a lot of ways. But especially for situations like um, racial inequality and everything that we've been talking about, I think it's important to say that this isn't like a political opinion. This is people's lives,
Yeah.
and it's not something that we can be quiet about. It's something that needs to be discussed, and whether or not Black Lives Matter or not is not an opinion. It's not a political thing. It's
No, it
fact.
shouldn't be.
It's a conversation that needs to be had, because when it comes down to it, there the statistics are there, the numbers are there, the videos are there. We're seeing this every single day. Um, so yeah, I think that there's a certain part of that conversation that can't be denied, but I totally understand how it absolutely is exhausting. There was a period, I think, where a lot of us, especially because over the summer, BLM was also happening with a lot of
Me too.
sexual assault stories that were coming out in the Twitch community. And it was like for a while there, a lot of us were just like, all I want to do is hide under a rock. I just want to go to sleep and wake up and have it all be over. But we can't, you got to persevere and power through it. And we did. And the conversations are still happening, which is so important. But ultimately, they're conversations that needed to be had.
Yeah. I think a lot of it is with the question about how do you share your opinions and if you get exhausted. Obviously, we saw on Wednesday that shoving your opinions doesn't work, right? When, but sometimes it does. See, oh, it's so hard. Okay,
It's hard.
give me a second to formulate my thoughts. I feel like if you walk the walk, people will start to notice that.
Mhm.
And then they will be able to take in your facts and opinions.
Mhm.
If you just come out opinions blazing, almost said guns blazing, but opinions blazing, then people are going to be turned off by that, right? Nobody wants to be yelled at about things, but at the same time, if you come out with your opinions and your feelings on things in a respectful, mature way first, and then you don't get anything, then yeah, get loud. But if you come out loud right away, people are going to be like, oh, no, I don't, that's too much. And so if you want to talk to people about your opinions and that if they have differing opinions, like family members, ask them if you can talk to them about it. Hear what their side is. You don't then, I mean, don't attack them. If you really want change to happen initially, don't come in attacking, but just come in and be like, hey, I have a different opinion than you. Can we talk about it? Can we, because I want to see where you're coming from. How did you get to this position? And I would love to tell you how I got to my position, and maybe we can learn something. Because again, just because you have a different opinion doesn't always mean that 100% of your opinion is correct.
Yeah.
100% of their opinion is not correct either. Obviously, depending on what you're talking about, that all changes. And that's why I think talking about politics and religion and stuff like that is so hard, because in a blink of an eye, depending on the topic that you're bringing up, the whole rules get thrown out the window, right?
Mhm.
Again, if we're talking about healthcare versus somebody dying in the streets, they're both very important stuff, but one is just a little bit more urgent to
Mhm.
talk about than the other. So that didn't answer your question at all, did it?
Sorry.
Sorry, because there is really no easy way. Oh man. What other questions do you guys see here? All lives don't matter until Black Lives Matter. Yep, yep. All right, what's this? Maybe I didn't get the full context for that bit, but can you guys elaborate on what you meant with by trying to create a dialogue with both sides? Because I feel like that's honestly a dangerous thing to suggest. For me, people who look like me, for those who love differently, to do such a thing would be putting ourselves in increasingly undeniable and just increasing danger. I know that it's not the intent, but I was wondering if you could elaborate on that.
Definitely. I think that's a really good point. Um, I also think it depends on what you define both sides as. Um, if you're defining both sides as Democrats versus Republicans, I think that's I kind of disagree with you because I think that there needs to be that conversation. Um, if you're defining it as us versus Trump supporters or those who rioted against the Capitol, I totally understand your perspective because you don't want to give a platform to the people who are spouting racism and bigotry and hate and wearing shirts that say Camp Auschwitz and Civil War January 6th, 2021. Like, I totally understand that perspective, but um, I think that really depends on how you're defining both sides. I mean, what do you guys think?
Yeah, I agree 100%.
Yeah.
It depends on where you're drawing the line on both sides and what you're talking about.
Mhm.
There's certain things that there is no gray area. It just needs to be black and white. Like
Mhm.
racism.
Racism is bad.
Racism is bad. If anybody comes out and they're like, but there's no but, racism is bad. The
Yes.
end. We can all agree on that. and so, but when it comes to other, things that are a little bit on the gray area side of things, then oh, that's why we're having these conversations. So
Hopefully
we can learn that, right?
Trying to learn and listen.
Yeah. I don't
And
know.
it's okay to learn and listen and to not know your opinion yet. However, morals should be easy to figure out. That's all I'm gonna
Right.
say.
Every single person should be able to wake up and say, this is right and this is wrong when it comes to fundamental things of being humans
Mm.
I
and
think the
being
perfect example of that was did you guys ever see Tommy Lahren and Trevor Noah? Did you ever see that?
I don't know.
So Trevor Noah had Tommy Lahren on his show. And
Is it Laren?
is it Lauren? Laren, Tommy
idea.
Lasagna? I don't know. I call her Tommy Lasagna. But they literally had this conversation about, I mean, it's difficult to find two people who are on further ends of the spectrum, right? And I think it was done really well for the most part. Like, she went into, her response, quote unquote, enemy territory, being on his show when all of his supporters clearly agree with him, and spoke her piece. And it was interesting to hear because, you don't really get to see two sides of the coin having a discussion that is actually productive to some degree. And I think and I think that if we could have more discussions where we're at least open to the opportunity of discussing why we feel the way that we do and expressing, okay, well, this is why I think this is unacceptable, and this is why this particular belief of yours is unacceptable, or this is why I feel the way that I do, and how, just having that discussion so we can at least understand each other. Because
Yeah.
when it comes down to it, a lot of the message that we get is not the same message that the other side, quote unquote, gets. That's not the information that they're being spoon fed. And when it comes down to it, you're absolutely right. There are some things that are just black and white, and they're not up for discussion. But there are also things that are up for discussion. And for those things, it's important that we're all at least somewhat communicative about it. So that way we're not just saying you're wrong and that's the end of it. And I don't care what you have to say, and I don't want to hear anything from you anymore, because that's how we alienate each other. So I think there's definitely a middle ground where discussion is and should be welcome.
I was trying to remember why that name sounded so familiar recently, because she tweeted on November 3rd, if real Donald Trump were to lose, he won't. His supporters will go to work tomorrow just as we do every day. When Biden loses, his supporters will likely loot and riot. Tells you everything you need to know, Trump 2020.
Yeah.
And yet on Wednesday, Ben replied with 6 question marks, and he has
I know,
the
I
most
saw that.
he has the most liked comment on that whole entire tweet. What was that?
Did he ratio her?
I hope. Oh, that would be amazing.
Yeah, that would be hilarious. But just all I did was put some question marks, and it has almost 16K likes on it. I was like, why does that name
Also,
sound so familiar right now?
kind of off topic. Well, it's sort of on topic, but I just 35 minutes ago, Dominion Voting Systems is suing former Trump lawyer Sidney Powell for $1.3 billion for all of the disinformation that she was spreading about the election. So, bye. Yeah, 1.3 billion. She's probably going to get disbarred. They're talking about it. So this is what we like to call consequences for your actions. Isn't that crazy?
Yeah. All this stuff just makes me like now I'm just sitting here looking at Twitter. All this stuff just makes me just not know what to do or say. Right?
We're living history. We're literally watching it unfold on social media.
Yeah. And that's even the worst part is that it's to the minute we're getting it. We watched Trump's recorded video on Wednesday 5 minutes before it came up on the news. Like, and it had already been out for a few minutes. So that
Social
means
media is faster than mainstream media now.
Yeah.
There's no question about it.
And it's so crazy. But it's also, I think, more, I mean, you get more opinions then, right? So it's just, I don't know.
Well, that's how we were running this stream the other day on Wednesday was I had CNN open and we were just watching it, but also people were sending links in chat and we were refreshing Twitter and that we were getting all of our information there. And then 5-10 minutes later, CNN would be like, and breaking news. It's like,
Yeah.
sorry, bro, who would have thought 10 minutes is not breaking news anymore?
So in chat, someone said, in my opinion, the MAGA movement has moved from a political opinion to a radical ideology that is borderline cult-like.
It is cult-like.
It is. And,
Don't worry, I said what I said earlier.
I can totally see that. I mean, not that like, I'm trying to think, Obama didn't have like a name for, his group or whatever, but with the hope, everybody was like full on, if they were Obama supporters, they're all about hope. And with Bernie Sanders, it was the feel the burn and all this kind of stuff. And with Hillary Clinton, it was the I'm with her kind of stuff.
What is Biden's is something against like the Make America Great Again, and then his is like the what is his?
Riding with Biden.
No, he like it had something else that like went off of the Make America Great Again.
Oh, was it We Just Did?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was cool.
I loved that. He had a hat that he literally wore the next day that he won.
Yeah. And I feel like Biden's was Build Back Better.
Build Back. Yeah, that was the other one.
Okay.
Cool.
And I feel like that, yeah, every campaign has that group that they're like, and they get the shirts and the hats and all that kind of stuff. But MAGA did definitely turn into its own living thing that even if Trump wanted to, he couldn't control it anymore. Even if he came out on Wednesday and was like, y'all need to stop and leave. This is not the right thing to do. Get out of here. They wouldn't. Because the MAGA movement is bigger than Trump now.
Yeah.
It could come back in 4 years with another presidential candidate, and that group is still going to be there. It's so weird.
And that's why when people say try and blame Trump is not the cause. Trump is the symptom of the problem. Yeah. He's the symptom of the fact that all of these people feel the way they do, and now they finally have a leader who validates them.
That's a good way to put it. Yeah.
It's scary.
Anyways.
Wow, we've gone over. Sorry, we can keep talking.
We could probably keep talking for hours, right? But I feel like eventually we're just going to be going in circles at a certain point. Like the conversation needs to end at some point. So we're just going to end it here. Haley, thank you so much for being our first guest and looking adorable in our picture frame above our fireplace.
Truly, thank you for having me. This was such a great discussion, and I'm so grateful to have been a part of it. So thank you.
Yeah. So if my mods can drop do a shout out for Haley in the chat, so that way if you guys don't know who Haley Nick is, this gorgeous, lovely lady here, please go follow her. She has an amazing stream, an amazing community. Her daughter is really cute with filters on Instagram stories. She likes to be the bunny a lot. And obviously I watched it's like every morning you're talking and all of a sudden you hear Hazel and she's like, Ma,
She's like,
I want to talk to them.
every time.
But please go
Thank
follow
you.
her. Also, we can get some shout outs for Sam as well. You guys know her from being a lovely co-host here, but she also does have a great community and stream as well. That is just full of lots of love and acceptance. I feel like that is a big theme of your community, is just being very open and accepting. And in times like this, we need that kind of stuff. So
I will say I'm not open to conversation on my stream right now because I'm still learning.
yeah, that's fine though, because you probably have
Totally
people in your
fine.
community that can have conversations with other people too. So
Yes.
There you go.
I just want to play games.
that's okay, because you know
Let's
what?
start,
Ultimately, sometimes that's what games are. Games are escapes.
That's exactly
They're
right.
escapes from the world, and sometimes we need to keep them like that. Sam, are you streaming after
I
this?
think so.
Okay.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna go live. Thank you
Do
so
it.
much. Seriously, I learned a lot. This conversation was going I knew it was going to be good, but I had so much anxiety leading up because I am somebody who is constantly just trying to be educated on the matters. So thank you, ladies, for both educating me, allowing me to have some kind of opinion. But yeah, mine stems from a different area, but I'm glad to know that we're in like the same mindset, and that's awesome.
All right.
You also represent
Well-
a lot of people who feel similarly too, Sam. There's a lot of people out there who are in the same boat. So
I
for
feel
sure.
y'all.
Well, thank you again, guys, so much for being part of our conversation. Everybody in chat, thank you. For the most part, I think everyone was pretty civil. I know we had a few rising moments, but everyone calmed down and did their thing. And mods, thank you so much for being here today. Appreciate you guys. So have a good rest of your day, guys. We'll see you next week. We'll get back hopefully to the lighter things where we'll be talking more about intentional living and continuing on our minimalism conversation, our 2021 prep series. If you guys aren't checking out the TMW Mins hashtag on Twitter and Instagram, go do that. If you want to join us with Mins Game, remember today you only need 36 items total to get caught up and then continue on. I will be posting mine later on this afternoon for the last couple days. So, yeah. Bye.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.